Alright, well today I wanted to have a look at chapter 20 of the book of Revelation, just because it's my favourite book in the Bible, and it's pretty fun, and it always tends to raise a few more questions than it answers when people read this book, so yeah, I'll just get stuck into it. So, from the start of chapter 20, the author John writes, "Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and locked and sealed it over him, so that he would deceive the nations no more, until the 1,000 years were ended. After that he must be let out a little while. Then I saw thrones, and those seated on them were given authority to judge. I also saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their testimony to Jesus and for the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. Over these the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign with him 1,000 years. When the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison, and will come out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog. In order to gather them for battle, they are as numerous as the sands of the sea. They marched up over the breadth of the earth, and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city, and fire came down from heaven and consumed them. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulphur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Then I saw a great white throne, and the one who sat on it. The earth and the heaven fled. I think that should say the earth and the heavens fled from his presence, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Also another book was opened, the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works, as recorded in the books. And the sea gave up the dead that were in it, death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and all were judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire, and anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire." So ends chapter 20 of the book of Revelation. So let's see what the translators have to say about it in the comments. This is in the NRSV Bible, by the way, I've read this from. So for that first passage where Satan gets locked up into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, and it's sealed and then has to be let out for a bit, links to a few other things. Peter 2:4, Jude 6. The period of 1,000 years is symbolic both here and in verses 4 to 7, suggesting a temporary time of righteousness and tranquility before the final eschatological consummation. There you go. See what else have we got here. Satan locked into the pit to prevent him from carrying out his demonic work as the deceiver of the whole world. It's almost just commentating what I already read. Kind of links to a few Old Testament scriptures and whatnot. Death and Hades are personified, yep. That's a good point. Not a whole lot to say there. I suppose one thing I should say about the book of Revelation is that it's a genre of literature which doesn't exist anymore. So when we read it today, it can't make sense unless you understand how the genre works. What else have they got to say? Unlike other Jewish and Christian apocalypses, which are pseudonymous, as in written under another name, with their authors writing in the name of some revered figure from antiquity, the author of the book of Revelation identifies himself by name as John. Oh yeah, he doesn't hide behind someone else's name. While some ancient authorities, like Justin in dialogue with Trypho, suggested that this is the Apostle John, the son of Zebedee, internal evidence from the book itself is inconclusive. The author's familiarity with the Jerusalem Bible and its rituals, the depth of his knowledge of the Hebrew Bible, and there is an incredible amount this author knew about the Old Testament, Some 275 verses include allusions to passages in the Hebrew Bible or to its Greek translation, as well as his adoption of a literary genre that was familiar in Palestinian Judaism, combined to suggest that the John of Revelation may have been a Palestinian Jewish Christian who fled to the diaspora, as in the Roman Empire outside Israel, as a consequence of the first Jewish revolt against the Romans. Yeah, and I'd probably agree with that. Alright. So that's chapter 20, straight out of the Bible. Let's see what... Oh, I know what I should check. That word Hades. We would almost know, I won't bother with that. We'll see what Asimov, the historian and atheist and science fiction writer, says about it. Because he's a fun guy. I hope you're enjoying this game of Dota 2. It's quite a fun game. You should play it. It's free. Available on Steam. On PC. Alright. The Book of Life. Yeah. Yeah, alright. So in Asimov's Guide to the Bible, Asimov was an atheist. He just wrote about the history and culture of the Bible. Didn't really try to discuss the theology of it. Let's see, the church at Sardis. Oh no, that's right at the beginning. No, that's not what we're talking about. We need some stuff on chapter 20. The pit. Being locked up for 1,000 bloody years. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. Gog and Magog. They're always good for a laugh. Oh, here we go, alright. So now, after the long series of portents, visions, disasters and symbols, the end of history has come and the Messianic age opens. Even that, however, is not to be truly permanent. Why should there be this 1,000-year millennium to be followed by still another upheaval and an anticlimactic second battle of good and evil? Asimov says there might be a mystic symmetry here. The earth was created in 6 days, followed by a 7th day of rest. But for God a day is like 1,000 years. That's in Psalms. Perhaps then the earth's duration is to parallel the week of creation, with the millennium standing for each day. Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, Gog and Magog gathering to battle, yada yada. Yeah. Yeah, so there is, I think more in Babylonian tradition, this idea that when the Babylonian chief god Marduk fought the goddess Tiamat, in their creation stories, he chopped her in half, and one half of his body created the earth. One half of her body created the earth, and the other half he used to create the sky. And there was apparently a kind of a folk legend that said the world was created with an epic battle in the spiritual realm. The earth will end with a similar kind of battle, where Tiamat or Leviathan or the Behemoth would need to be destroyed again. And I think the author of Revelation might be tapping into that idea a little bit. But instead of having the Babylonian gods, it's Jesus v Satan and death, hell, Hades, and all the rest. It's a pretty cool book, but... Oh, excuse me, but... Don't know where the sound went there. But we come to it with our way of looking at things, and like I said before, it's a genre which doesn't exist anymore. The author John, who wrote this, isn't the only person who wrote with this kind of style. And there are other sources outside the Bible. The names of all of them escape me, but historians have found them written from other religious perspectives, from people not Jewish or not writing for a necessarily monotheistic religion, like, you know, people of the Greek or Roman religions. And there's all these themes, you know, like angels and demons and rivers and lights and fires and clouds and battles and all this kind of stuff. So lots of fun imagery and symbolism. And quite a brilliant book, really. And I think at the end of the day, the author was writing just to say to Christians, hold on to your faith despite persecution. There's always some kind of conflict going on, and hold up under any persecution. Because in the first 100 years, like since Jesus died, like the Roman government stamped down pretty hard on anything they thought was dissenting against them, and if that happened to be a religious group, so be it. So Christians and Jews or any kind of sect really copped it pretty hard at different times in history, and the author here in Revelation seems to be framing that in the sense of spiritual warfare. The idea that it's not just human political forces in Rome making life hard for us, there is a real spiritual enemy behind that. And yeah, he's just encouraging Christians to hold on despite it and try to see things beyond just the material realities they appear to be. I don't know. You should check it out though, it's a pretty fun book. Maybe get some help interpreting it. I would recommend maybe a book called 4 Views of Revelation by... I don't remember who that one's by. You could also get How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth by Stewart and Fee. It's another good one. Yeah, anyway, I'll get out of here. Go and play Dota and read the book of Revelation, and testimony to Jesus and for the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who... Alright, well today I wanted to have a look at chapter 20 of the book of Revelation, just because it's my favourite book in the Bible, and it's pretty fun, and it always tends to raise a few more questions than it answers when people read this book, so yeah, I'll just get stuck into it. So, from the start of chapter 20, the author John writes, "Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and locked and sealed it over him, so that he would deceive the nations no more, until the 1,000 years were ended. After that he must be let out a little while. Then I saw thrones, and those seated on them were given authority to judge. I also saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their share in the first resurrection. Over these the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and they will reign with him 1,000 years. When the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison, and will come out to deceive the nations at the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, in order to gather them